Hello Legionnaires and welcome back to Legions of Miniatures. It has been a long time, it's been far too long, and today I am here to do a bit of a build video around some of the terrain that I've recently picked up. So at the end of next week I am retreating up to Scotland to go and have a bit of a stag party, and part of that is going to involve bringing a number of little 500 points armies and giving people who haven't had the opportunity to play Warhammer, haven't had the opportunity to play 9th edition, the chance to jump into the game and get to grips with basically my number one hobby. So, we've got 2 boxes of the Sanctum Administratum kit from the Manufactorum Battle Zone. Okay, and with this kit, I've then got a Sisters of Battle Sanctum, and I've got a sort of a similar kit to the Sisters of Battle Sanctum, which is the terrain expansion set for the not the current kill team, the one before that with the Noviate Sisters and the Tau Pathfinders. I think they're called. Now, excuse me. I may be coming down with a cold. It's all sitting in the sort of throat, it's sitting in the nose, it's all really nasty and unpleasant. So hopefully this will help me take my mind off of it, and I'll have the camera there just to help give a little bit of extra entertainment value. Now, I'm afraid I've left you out of it a little bit. I've already opened this box and got to work on all of the interior, and I've taken out a very large number of the sprues, and I've already clipped out a huge number of the parts. But what we do have in here, let's toss that down there, is we do have a load of the little walls that I've not used. We'll get those out. We've got a couple of little broken bits here. And one of the things that I really love about this kit, that's the focus, okay, is these buttresses. I do love a good buttress. Now, what I want to do is I want to build up these 2 sort of Manufactorum buildings, and using this and some of the banister supports from the Battle Sanctum, is I want to create a walkway which connects the 2 buildings in question. So that's going to be my sort of plan for this. And if I'm going to have a walkway, I need to install doors on the upper level. So I followed the instructions in the book already, in the box already, and I built 2 of the Mechanicus Sector Mechanicus Administratum Sanctums, and the way GW recommends that you build these is a bit it's not very inspired, I'm afraid. I'm sorry to say, GW. It's a bit of a letdown. So what we're going to do is, well, I've already bashed them apart. What we're going to do is I'm going to pop them back together so that we've got a nice first floor door and a ground floor door, so that we can do sort of these buildings with sort of multiple levels and really encourage the use of that verticality in 40k. And I think verticality is a really important aspect of the game, which is just left behind by the actual rules. There is very little benefit to going up, especially in the days of obscuring terrain. So, what we'll do, I think, is we'll go ahead and start building the ground floor for one of the buildings, and then we'll build the ground floor for the other building. So, I'll jump back to you in just a second once I've got everything ready. Right, here we go, Legionnaires. So we're back. I've got out all the parts which I've already built up, and first thing I thought I'd do is just grab these bits which are still a bit intact from my destructive process, and we'll get those into an area where we might be able to get the camera to focus on them. Let's give this a go. There we are. So you can see we got actually this. I've filled this in with a little bit of Administratum grey paint, and then just wiped it off the surface, so you can actually see some of the details that we have on these nice flat panels. Now, one of the things I really like about these is that Mechanicus detailing, because Georgina, my partner, one of the things that she's just started doing is actually collecting a Adeptus Mechanicus army. And so having these little symbols here, that means that the boards will be able to tie in really nicely with the armies that are going to be fighting on it, which I think is going to be great. So, this is going to be the second floor of one of the buildings. Okay, and we're going to have this doorway here, leading on to an 8-inch long bridge, which will connect whatever this building here is onto the other. So the only thing that I know that we need to do with this building is that the ground floor has got to be 3 stages long and at least 1 stage deep. Okay, we are probably going to actually attach this ruined piece here just onto the end there, and yeah, we'll do that. So we'll make it at least 2 stages deep. So I think the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to grab hold of all of these little floorboards, which come in various levels of destroyed, and we're going to set them to one side for a bit later. Pop them right there. Okay, now these ruined little end bits, I'm going to set these aside as well, because they're going to go on the ground floor. So let's set... I think they're going to go on the ground floor anyway, maybe they won't. We'll set all the ruined bits aside, we'll set them up here. Okay, and there's another ruined bit. Here's another ruined bit. There's yet another ruined bit. So there's plenty of actual stuff that you get in this box. Okay, now we've got 1 first floor. So let's build ourselves a second first floor. Now, this building is a sort of a regular L shape, and so I'd like one that's kind of a J shape next. So I think for that, we'll go with a sort of a short side here. And then this side that you're seeing the back of right now, we'll make this into a long side. So we've got a window. Let's go a door. So let's see if I can find a door. Here's a door. Okay, so we'll do a sort of a line a little bit like this. Now I need to take these cappers off because they aren't going to line up properly anymore. So, grab myself a pair of clippers and just see if I can't lever this off. Here we are. There we go. Off it goes. Okay, so we'll line this up just there like that. And then we'll go on to, I think that will be one of our ruined end pieces then. Okay, just like that. And then we can have a shorter ruined end piece just sort of on this part right there. And that will give us a nice sort of J shape to match this one right here. Now, one of the things I think I'm going to quite like about this is by having the door right at the corner here, but not right at the corner here, it's going to provide a little bit of off-center placing to these. So I can put the buildings so they're not quite lined up with each other, they're sort of a diagonal, and that means they're going to obstruct more of that center of the battlefield. And this will be, I think, a really good battlefield centerpiece. So that's the plan for these parts right here. Okay, well, without further ado, let's just, I'll come back to you once these have been glued in place. Okay, so now that that's been glued together, we've got the walls in place. Now you'll notice these little areas here. Now, what we get is we get a number of these little parts here. We get them in half, we get them in 3/4, we get them in 1/4. And all they do is they actually just click into place right at the top of the walls here, and it continues the sort of, oops, and it continues the pattern that we see on these tile works, and it provides a place for the pieces of the next level to then go ahead and just click into place. So this is the element of the modularity. Now, if you watch channels like Zorp, you'll know that there's that when it comes to modularity, it's actually nicer to have the floors attached to the wall like this. Oh, I can't take that off, it's jammed in place and my glue's not fully set. But basically, it's nicer to have the floors attached to your wall like this, as opposed to the ceilings attached to your walls, because that's going to allow you to be able to take layers off and continue to stack higher and higher and higher for supermassive builds. Now, unlike Lockie at Zorp, I'm not at the stage of going for something seriously massive. I'm just going to be happy for a nice 2.5 story building. By half story, I mean we're going to do the top level with a number of these bombed out pieces here. Okay. So that's my second floor here done. I've got just to finish off the back end of this second floor here with one of these ruined pieces, just like that. And then we'll go and try and create some relatively interesting ground floors. So we'll be back in just a moment. Okay, so we've now got our buildings built and I've stacked them on top of each other just off to the side here. Now, we're going to have to create a wall that is at least 3 by 2. And we're going to have to create a wall that's at least 2 by... No, so we're going to have to create 2 walls that's 3 by 2, but one of them we're going to have the 2 wall at the left-hand side, the other one we're going to have the 2 wall at the right-hand side. And we've got loads of parts to achieve this. Let's start with our top floor here. So, at the corner, I don't want there to be a door right underneath this current door. So, I'm just going to take my door tiles and I'm going to set them off to one side. Now, we've got a set of choices in regards to windows. We can have large open windows. We can have partially open windows over sort of fans as well. Okay. I don't recall if there's another type of window. I don't believe there is, no. So those are the 2 other wall choices that we've got. So I'm going to go for an extractor fan right underneath that doorway like that. Okay. Now, anything that's underneath this doorway, I need to remove these caps from the top because we are going to be using the walkway. We'll have a walkway coming out from this point here. Now, the big thing that we've got to be aware of is, let's see if we can get into focus. Here we are. So these skulls right along the top here. Now, they actually sit in the way of where I want these floor tiles to go. So they'll actually sit, there we are, that's how it'll sit. It's a decorative piece to sort of hide the ugly edge of the floor tile. But it does stop us from putting the floor tile where it needs to be on the other side. So we're going to have to remove that. And there's no way to make a really nice cut without damaging the skulls in some way. So this is gonning piece. So, let's go. No time like the present. Clip. Clip. On one side. Clip. Clip on the other side. I'm just going to cut in from above there. Take that off. In from above here. Take that off. And then clip. Clip. That's removed there. Now that's kind of rough, so what I'm going to do is I've got a set of nail clippers with a file around here somewhere. And we'll grab that and have a shave down of what's going on. No, those are my tweezers. We'll be back in a second once I've found them. Okay, so couldn't find the nail clippers, but I found one of my hobby files. And I've got out my scalpel. So I'm just going to trim off the top with that scalpel and just bring that down nice and flush. Oh, that's making a good squeak noise, isn't it? There we are. That's pretty smooth, and then we'll just touch it up. Last of all, with the file. There we go. Set these just off behind here so I don't prick myself on them. Set the clippers off over there as well. There we are, that's that first piece done. So we're going to pop that right there. I now need the corner pieces which are going that way. And once again, I don't think I want a door just round the corner right underneath the door on the top level. I think that's going to, if I wanted to transfer this back to earlier editions where access points are going to be important, I don't want to feel like all the models are grouping up around this one part of the building. So I reckon we're going to have a door on the next bit down. So we're not going for a door right here, we'll go for a door just behind it, where my glass of squash is right now. So we've got a kind of closed window, we've now got a couple of choices. Well, actually, no, we've got one choice. We've got either we go for another fan, or we go for this sort of like energy hatch with some ventilation going on. I like the look of that. If we go for something like that on the corner, maybe one that I've not glued quite so obviously. There we are, that one there. Okay, if we do that for a corner, I think, let's turn that so you can actually see it, we'll have a little nice bit of variation just there. And it means that there's actually going to be kind of an advantageous position on the bottom here. Okay, a model in that place can get two fairly decent lines of sights around the corner, while still having those benefits of cover. So I think what we'll do is we'll pop those two together, and then I think we need to have a door just there. Okay, so models will be getting access at this point here on the top floor. They're getting access at this point here on the bottom floor. I think we'll go for another window. And then, what do you think? We've got to go one more along, because we're going to have this whole unit here sat on top like that. So we've got to go one more along. Should we go for another window or a door? Now, that's a difficult question. Perhaps we should just go for another nice open window. Oops. It's all falling apart. Tell you what, we'll pop these three together, and then we'll have a play from there, because I'm fairly sure that's how I wanted that corner set up. So, we'll go ahead, I'll glue those in place, and I'll catch up with you in just a hot second. There we go. Those are glued in place. Now, one of my recommendations when building these kits is keep some floor tiles to hand, because the underside of the floor tiles feature these same little bits, which you'll see are ever so slightly raised, and they slot into the walls and will actually provide the ability for you to get these nice right-angled corners and not just have everything stick out like a bit of a sore thumb. So this will be sitting a bit like that, which means that our level above will currently sit just like this. So we've got to do something with this space right there. Let's push my board back a bit. Oh, that's a bit of rubbish there. Let's get rid of that. Okay. So we need to do something right under here. And obviously, now we can actually sit our walkway. I say obviously. It's probably not very obvious, but there we go. We can actually now have our walkway coming out. No, I break everything. There we go. Come on. Right, let's see if I've got a shorter piece of walkway. Nice little corner. There we go. So we can have our walkway just like that. Slot in place. There we are. Oh, that made a good click. Oh, that's a good click. That's not a good click. Go on. Make those noises again for me. Ah, there we are. Okay, that's the other issue. These floor plates, you need to make sure you clean them up. Just going to use the back of my clippers for that. Just take some of the raised bits off and file them down a bit. Because these are designed to sit so flush that you can't get away with the tiniest little bit of sprue. It would appear. I say this with authority, but I am learning for the first time, really. Here, there we go. So off to one side. And so now if I sit that there like that, I can get my walls set up to the right angle. I can put my stand in for the floor for the next level in there. And then I can go ahead and do this here. Okay. So, okay, I give up. That's just being a nonsense that's falling apart. We'll leave that be. But you can see how that's going to work. We're going to have this floor coming out from this point. And once we get to gluing that in place, it'll be a lot more sturdy. But it does mean that at this point here, I'm going to need one of those sort of straight, direct across connectors. And at this point here, I'll need one of the 1/4 connectors, which I've got just there on the sprue, right next to me. But we'll leave that be for now. what are we going to do with the next couple of walls is, I think, the key question for this next bit. So let's just click those there. Okay. We could go for another one of these open windows here. But I'm slightly concerned that might get a little bit repetitive around the corner. Though actually, from your perspective, from this direction, it looks kind of fresh. If I even go so far as to rotate this a little bit. Come on, stay there. Good floor. There we go. It probably actually doesn't look too bad, especially since we will have a buttress rising up from this section right here, like that. So that will do a lot to break up the monotony of it. Yeah, I'm happy with that. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we will glue this piece here in place like that, and then I think we'll do a window and then a door, and we'll get a bit of a U shape going, because this has got to provide a really solid, stable foundation for this next level. So we'll go like that. We'll put this fan right in there, and then we'll go round a corner onto one of our door tiles, just like this around there, and then cap it off with a ruined wall just behind where my finger is, right behind the camera. Okay, right there, and we'll put another ruined section just behind this bit right here, and that will give me a nice complete ground floor. So I will hop back to you once that is done. Well, here is the skeleton. As you can see, I went for the 3 windows on the front with the level at the top here for our balcony to sit in place and run out from here. I say balcony, it's going to be a full walkway. I'd like to use, effectively, where are they? Here, I'll just steal this one off the top of the building. I'd like to use, basically, 3 of these, which are each, 4 inches long? Maybe not 3 of these, 2 of them, just 2 of them perhaps. Yeah, and really have this sort of extensive walkway here. Not the kind of thing that a Space Marine even would be able to cross in one turn. I think I'd like to maybe make some house rules as well, which would enable models to perhaps move vertically much more rapidly rather than 1 inch to 1 inch, because especially in a building where there's access points, like all these tiles are modelled with a little access point right on the floor there. So if a guy can get underneath that hatch and get up, maybe that should be like double movement or something. Rather than costing 5 inches, it's only going to take 2.5. Okay, maybe something like that, just so we have this this understanding that you're not going to get penalized too heavily for moving up and getting that tactical advantage. I think it's also really important in this situation to use a table with a lot of hills. Okay, because hills, by the rules of 9th edition, are open terrain, but they do block line of sight normally. So if I've got, let's use this little Rohan horse. If I've got this horse and my hill is in front of it and I can't see it, I can't see it. But if the hill is lower down and so is the horse, let's see if I can get a situation where this matters for you. Yeah, like that. Okay, you are in this nice high position all the way up here, but you can see down to the horse now. You've got line of sight. So it does the obscuring thing as it used to be done. And I think therefore having a little higher vantage point will make a really interesting game out of this. Now, the next thing that we've got to do is I've got to glue in my little guide pieces on the corner here. I need my 1/4 one on the corner there. And we need to work out what we're doing with this wall over here. I think I said I put a ruin piece on it, so I need to go and do that now. Then what we're going to do at the top is we've got these little ruined bits here, which are like half height. Okay, now they're kind of awkward in that there's these 2 pieces here, which I think work really, really well together. But if I put them on in like this, in this sort of fashion like that, go on like that, then what I'm kind of left with is this, oh, you can't even see that, Nope, this is too high up. Let's bring it down a level. There we go. Sound effects and all. There we go. What we're left with is this little bombed out corner here. Now, I do believe we get given some little stubs which we could use. And I'm fairly certain I've got one lying around in this little box here. No? Perhaps it's the box underneath. But we've got these little, like, broken down wall sections. Which, I suppose, if I took something like that, and I put it just sort of there, we might be able to somewhat effectively sell the idea that this has been blown up at a higher level. I mean, how does that look? That looks okay, actually. Maybe that's not a way to not go. But I then feel like I need something on this side here. And apart from just doing another piece like that, which is going to look... Oh, perhaps not, actually. Because they're different-sided, so that way it looks a little bit different to the other way round. So for reference, there we are, that's what they look like. We've got one which has got this big sort of like control box here with all the wires, and then we've got this one here which has got a little sort of like GPU fan-esque thing, probably cooling the stuff on the other side, and some little, I don't even know what that is, like a little air vent, I suppose, air conditioning. That's a funny thing that you don't think about, isn't it? The air conditioning in the 41st millennium. Because I have just, I'm going to say, survived the 40-degree heat in Great Britain this last week. Yeah, survived, that seems melodramatic enough. And having survived it, I have to say, I don't envy anyone who lives in a climate as inhospitable as the surface of the sun, which I obviously class as anywhere which gets above 23 degrees C. I'm sure that we'll have many of you around the world scoff and laugh in sort of horror at how you probably don't know any temperature below 23 degrees C. And I apologise to our American cousins. A degree centigrade is an allotment of measuring temperature which is used literally everywhere around the world. Though, that being said, they describe the Imperium of Man as the most brutal and bloody regime imaginable. Perhaps they use imperial measurements. I mean, presumably so, seeing as we play the game in feet and inches. Perhaps that is an aspect of being in a dystopian society, that you don't use an understandable set of measurements. Now, I'm saying this as a Brit, and I'm sure someone's going to turn around to me and say, yeah, but how heavy is a stone? And I'm going to say, nobody knows. Nobody knows how heavy a stone is. It just comes up on scales when you step on them from time to time. It'll tell you that you're 15 stone and some number of pounds, which is very confusing because I use pounds to buy chocolate, and then the chocolate turns me into being a stone's heavier. It's very confusing. Basically, I think the idea is that when you have consumed enough chocolate by value, so it's like the more expensive the chocolate you buy, the heavier you're going to get. Once you've consumed enough pounds sterling of chocolate, you will sort of upgrade to being a stone, and it's sort of determined by like how expensive is a stone, so it will change with the economy. And this is basically why during COVID everyone got so fat, and it's because the economy went through a massive boom due to everyone getting furlough. Now, I've just filled enough time. You've seen me dry fitting there. The walkway, I think we're in a pretty good position. The only thing that we need to do in order to support that walkway is install my favourite thing of all time. Buttresses. I'm trying to hold it up to this camera here when I'm down here. There we are. Buttresses. So we're going to have a buttress right there. Gotta love a good buttress. I like big buttresses and I cannot lie. Okay, So that buttress is going to go on there. That's just holding through sheer friction alone. Or I have become a latent psyker since last I checked, and I hope it's not the latter, because I hear you can get a rather nasty headache from time to time doing that kind of nonsense. And I'm just going to have to clip out this second buttress right here. One thing I'm going to point out about these is that actually they don't have anywhere near as many mold lines as I might have expected. So it's sort of known that I believe the team that makes GW terrain is the same team that makes the dice and does all of the sort of extra gubbins that you get alongside your regular game. They're not the regular miniatures crew. And you can kind of tell this when you're working with the plastic. It's got an extra sort of like glossy shine to it in a way that even the larger kit models, like my Tesseract Vault back there, okay, it doesn't have that same glossy sheen that you kind of... Sorry, it has a glossy sheen that you don't find, rather, with things like the Tesseract Vault. You'll have to excuse me a moment. I believe that's a mortgage advisor sending me a text. Okay, well, while playing around with a mortgage lender, or rather an agent rather, we have put together the top floor here. So we've got our buttresses in place, and I mean, if I can show you just some of the stuff that we got on our desk here, you know, we had to shave the sides of these tiles down quite a lot to make them fit in place. They are very, very tight fitting, and only little nicks, even actually the sprue lines, the mold lines on the edge of the piece, which I didn't shave off because they wouldn't be visible, those mold lines were enough to stop the piece actually fitting together. That's how tight and secure that GW has made these pieces, which I think actually is really, really impressive. Excuse me. So we are now at a point where I think we want to build the other one of these now. So we've got this one piece, we've got the bridge starting to come out, and I think what would be a good idea is to have another piece just like this join up. Now the only question is, do I want to go for 2 half floor pieces, or do I want to go for just the 6? I feel like the 6 is going to make these pieces a little bit too close to one another, and so I think I want an almost ruined piece in the middle. Okay, which will just be another sort of one of these, but positioned back to back, so you can sort of see it on this sprue that I've got right here. Okay, a piece like that. So if we position that, sort of, well, we position one facing that way and the other one facing that way, and then we use the Battle Sanctum kit from the Sisters of Battle to create this as a sort of a freestanding platform. We can then actually position these as separate buildings with walkways coming out. Or we can put them both close to each other with this central pillar and have them connect into one continuous walkway across the board, which I think will be really, really cool. And as soon as we set that up, we'll then actually have the ability to expand upon this and continue to develop it, and perhaps even create longer, more extravagant walkways. That's interesting. I haven't ordered anything from Games Workshop, and their emails are telling me that I've got something arriving today. Free stuff, hurrah! Not just stuff that I've forgotten I've bought. Hopefully it's the former. I like free stuff. But then again, one imagines a channel with a few hundred subscribers that's been inactive for 2 years is not getting free stuff and would not be notified of it. Oh well. Hurrah. Okay, so next step is we are going to build the second one of these. And build that around the other building. And we want it to kind of mirror this in a certain way. I think I'm going to go for the three windows on the front side, a door around the corner on this side, and a door towards the... Well, sorry, a door around the corner on this side, and a door around the back on that side. I think that's what we're going to go for. So you've seen me build this in the little few steps. So what we'll do is we'll jump ahead to having the 2 fully built pieces. And we might need to readjust how the cameras are set up. in order to be able to get a capture of that piece, which might mean I need to tidy up the desk, which isn't in the field of view. It's like, let's see, my hand comes to here, everything past that point is a wasteland, and I'm not having you all see that. And everything that's actually just so you get to the back of the screen here, everything above and beyond that point is also a wasteland. It's absolutely despicable in here, but I cleaned up enough of a space so that you guys can have a pleasant enough viewing experience, because that's the kind of gentleman that I am. Now, yeah, that's what we're going with. I'm a gentleman for your viewing experience. Right, well, we're half an hour into the video, so let's actually just get on and show you what's coming up next. There we go. We are now a couple of hours later, because the camera ran out of battery, but I've built the second structure. And as you can see, we've got a more central platform this time. Okay, it's longer on the left-hand side rather than the right-hand side. And, I mean, the inside, pretty basic. What you'd expect, really. And we've got these buttresses in place. Now, the next step is to use part of the Sisters of Battle Battle Sanctum kit. And this comes with a series of little, like, banister railings, which I can then put on up here. And it's also going to come with a set of... here's the sprue now, actually. It's also going to come with a series of little bollards, I suppose, what we're going to call those, like banister posts, and other sort of banisters here. Now, you'll notice I've taken a whole bunch of chunks out, and that is because, just to save time, I put together part of the central piece. So we've got, there goes one of them. We've got two of our little buttresses. Squeeze that back in place. Get one, get in. There we go. We've got two of our little buttresses. Shove that all the way back there. Okay, two of those little posts that I was talking about, and on either side we've got a ruined piece of banister. Now, this will then actually just slide in like that. Okay, and, excuse me. That will slide in like that, and you'll see it actually just connects up really, really nicely. Okay, so the next thing that we need to do is actually make this self-standing. So for that, we're going to need these, which are taken from one of the other sprues in that Sisters of Battle Battle Sanctum kit. So each of these is just going to come apart and get rid of our little sprue nibs. Pip, 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 pip. And these are really quite actually nice because they're all identical, which means, and one side is all male connectors, the other side is all female connectors. This means that any two of them actually just click together really nicely. Like that. And then all these are going to do is they're going to go on the underside here, connecting to the bottom of the bridge and also to the buttress. Okay, so I'm going to put two of these together and make that buttress freestanding, and then we'll keep going. Right, well, there we have it. So we've got the two little legs. They're fairly it's freestanding, and it supports itself quite nicely when it's up against the rest of the building. And that's just because these two tiles here are also designed to slot together, and so they actually got a really tight fit. As I was saying a little bit earlier in the video, excuse me, loads of these parts in the kit actually slot together in a really, really, really tight fit. Now, I've got a little air bubble trapped in this, so it keeps trying to squeeze it apart. Might need to try and just hold that until it dries. That's annoying. But yeah, loads of these parts are a really, really good tight fit. And so, you don't need to put a lot of effort in order to make them stick. Right, if that keeps sliding apart, might need to whip out the Gorilla Glue. See if we can just get this to seal. Okay, there we go. Got the Gorilla Glue open. We're just gonna go ahead and just use this in an area that we're not gonna see much of. So where we're not gonna see much of, we're not gonna see this part up at the top here. So let's just squeeze this apart a wee smidge and then apply our Gorilla Glue into that space right there. Pull that away. Put it down in there. Squeeze that together. And then we're just going to go ahead and apply a little bit of plastic glue along the top there. And then we're just going to slide that straight into space. Like that. There we go. No. That should stop it from peeling apart. Right, is that coming apart anymore? No. Good. Okay. Now we are. Little quick super glue botch. Don't be afraid of using super glue on plastic, is my sort of opinion on things. It's not going to be as strong a bond, but it's snappy. And I've already got the plastic glue on the inside there. I just needed to wait for it to dry. And that super glue is just going to hold it in place long enough for the plastic glue to make that superior bond. And then I've also done the plastic glue on the top of the little buttress I just installed there. And so we're also going to get that strong bond as well. Okay. Is this camera slightly wonky? It does appear that it might be. Oh, that's a bit too far. And that's crashed the camera as well. There we go. Okay. That still looks wonky. Maybe it's just the desk that's wonky. Who knows? Anyway. So, I've now got the start of my walkway set up. I've got the middle ruined bit. I'm just going to install another buttress on the other side here, which will line up really nicely with the other building that we've built. And then I think we're just going to put the two of them together and see what we end up with. Should be quite exciting. Be back with you in a moment. So I was just getting underway with a little bit of stuff here, and it kind of occurred to me that I don't think I really mentioned it in those closing remarks before I signed off for a few moments there. So what I thought I'd just bring you up to speed with is what I'm doing right now on the actual walkways themselves. So I'm just installing the banisters. Now, thanks to a good friend of mine from half the country away that I met through World of Warcraft a good few years ago, I will be getting an extra couple of banister railings, of the damaged ones anyway, from another Sister of Battle Sanctum kit, all at the very cheap cost of giving up the big Celestine statue, which I don't feel I really need. I'm making this for a Mechanicus structure, and then I'm saving some of those Sisters of Battle bits from the Battle Sanctum to be a bit more inquisitorial and sort of suit the Inquisition army that I'm toying with setting up at the moment. So, all I'm doing in this circumstance is I'm taking these banisters and I'm just gonna be applying them to the walls next to the actual building itself. And I'll be doing this on the other item as well. However, one of the things that I'm making sure of is that these are not actually glued to the wall. That way I can remove this building for playable space, or to create an extra modular piece of terrain, which is also going to be obscuring. Look at the height of it, that's 5 inches right there. And I haven't lost the use of this walkway. So these are just going in place. Now, do you reckon this little skull chap here, do you reckon he should be on the inside or the outside? If I put him like that, he kind of looks like he's got a keypad. Oh yeah, he's got to go next to the wall. That's like an entrance key code. Yeah, that's good. I've convinced myself. Thank you guys. You've been very useful in that. So I'm just going to put the glue there. I'm going to put a dribble around the inside right there. There we go. My voice is going as this coal is slowly catching up to me across the whole morning. There we go. Squeeze that into place. Alright, and then all I need to do to this now is I need to apply one of these little... I don't even know what you're going to call these, really, but it's like these little half pieces to these column caps, wall fillers. Just going to put that there. I just need it all to click into place. There we go. It's clicked into place nicely. And then we got these little sensors on the bottom. Now these come from the Battle Sanctum kit, and I quite like them because, I mean, one of the things that I've picked up on, and in things like Dark Heresy, is that incense is something that is used by the Mechanicus as a way of appeasing machine spirits. Now, goodness me, I can't wait to see what the sort of filters are like on some of the air vents and cooling mechanisms in these machines. But then again, maybe we're in the 41st millennium, maybe everything's water cooled, and so getting a little bit of dust in there isn't going to cause too much difficulty. But with the kind of steampunk diesel punk aesthetic that we see in this setting, that might not be quite the case. Go on, get on there. There we go. I think that's in place. Nope, it's not. Right, well, I'll fiddle around with this for a little bit. And maybe... Go on, get on there. There we go. So the only other thing that's going to happen now is I'm going to put a little broken bridge, banister right there, just like I've done on the other side here. So this kind of broken banister or this kind of broken banister is just going to go into this space, but it's going to attach to this column instead of this one, so that when I remove it, I will still have a broken banister here trailing off into the nothingness. Now, one area for consideration is, do I remove the skulls on this part here and attach them to this bit of brick? Or perhaps I even go even further and I break off this chunk here just on this archway, and so I have the archway going up to about there before it breaks off, thereby keeping that sort of like flow going through here. I'm just going to say, of this build, the one thing that really sells me on the Warhammer element of it is when I rotate the piece like this and we find ourselves looking at that. Now that, if I don't know anything else, that is Warhammer. This bit right here. Maybe we need to just make a quick check for the playability of this. I'll be back in a moment. Okay, testing playability. Let's see what we've got going on here. So, first things first, I know my Ghost Arcs aren't going through that, but my Ghost Arcs can fly. So they'll be able to go over the top of the banister. That'll be no issue. But anything that's on ground, I need to check that it can actually go underneath that archway. So let's start off with the first thing that I've built for my Inquisition force, which is going to be this little Taurox Prime. And, you know, actually we can really happily fit under there. That's basically perfect. Next up, something that is going to represent a heavier vehicle type. Something that's going to indicate Leman Russes will be able to get under here, Space Marine vehicles like Predators and such. We're going to go for one of the bulkier forms of Space Marine transport that's not super heavy, and we're going to go for the Vindicator with the extra side armour. So here's the Vindicator. And, oh, I've driven that straight into the wall. But that Vindicator, it's tighter than the Taurox Prime, but it can get under there, and we're going to have that second archway just on the other side, connecting to that second building. So it is going to fit wonderful. And so, let's cap off this episode with a little trip with the hand camera around the display. So we've got the top floor of that first building that we built, which comes down onto this second floor, and that doorway which will lead us out onto the bridge, We've seen a lot of what's going on down here. Oh, there's the plastic clippers, there's the mouse. But then we come on to the bridge, and I think this is really what... This is really what sells the Warhammer element. Okay, sure, we're missing a couple of broken bridge pieces. But we come across this large bridge. And then arrive. Move that out of the way. Very professional, as you can see. And then we arrive here. The next broken tower. Rise our way up, seeing some headless dark angels in the background. Just going to move this out of the way. Might be able to get a really nice little shot. There we are. Expert camera work, as you can see. With that, Legionnaires, we have constructed 2 items of pretty largely modular terrain. I mean, this whole top here can come off, as can the piece across the way. Okay. I'll draw us back a little bit. There we go. As you can see, here's about a nice sort of scale piece. Blade Guard Ancient there. Upgraded with a little bit of Dark Angel's goodness, and lacking a head, obviously. Okay, that gives you an impression of the kind of scale that we're dealing with here. Alright, this is going to be good for any sort of Space Marine models. Here's a Necron to give us another item of scale. Okay, your regular Firstborn are going to be able to use this just fine. Might even be a bit small for them. If we grab, I think I've got a Graveguard over here under construction. Yes, I do. Here's a Graveguard under construction from Age of Sigmar. Okay, and that gives us an idea of how it stands compared to a regular Imperial Guardsman. This is at a fantastic scale. Okay, I can separate this into a little item of dense scatter terrain or a defensible piece like a barricade. I've then got a second floor here if I need a smaller obscuring building. I've obviously got 2 obscuring buildings in just the ground floors themselves that can even become 1 obscuring building with that central piece. Or treat them as 2 obscuring buildings and just as open terrain here, and separate the battlefield out and use those to obstruct the very, very centre. On the far other side, we've then obviously got another item of little scatter, and we've got another item here of obscuring terrain. So theoretically, from this kit, we have just built 4 items of obscuring terrain and 2 little pieces of scatter. And I think it prudent to mention that I still have these 2 bits right here. Okay, 3 rather, if I include this one here. So there are ways that we could take these items and use them to create other little items of scatter terrain. Not to mention that we've not used these little broken pieces right here, these little broken pillars. And I think there's a few areas where I need to tidy up. I mean, just around here you can see I'm missing a piece, and over here it would be really good just to install a bit more floor and build out this section here into a more substantial area of ruin. Left over on the sprues, I mean, I have literally used everything from the Sisters of Battle kit, from that K sprue. So you will need to buy, if you want to do exactly as I've done, you'll actually need to get 2, where is it, 2 Battle Sanctums, which that's £75 each. That's going to set you back 150 quid. I would recommend finding someone who's willing to give you some of the broken bits of the balcony, because one of the things, if you're building the Sisters of Battle kit, to build the balcony, you actually only need 3 of the 6 provided banisters. So you might be able to reach out to people, perhaps on the Sisters of Battle subreddit, or perhaps if you know someone who plays Sisters of Battle, you might be able to reach out with them and try and get those couple of bits there from a very cheap price, or just for free. Or as I have done, by swapping out this Celestine statue. It's a big build. It's a big build. There's a lot of stuff left, and I've still got the whole Battle Sanctum to build. So if we include the Battle Sanctum in this, that's going to give me another item of obscuring terrain, possibly two. I think I'm just going to build it as one solid structure rather than something modular. Get a nice inquisitorial holdout. But that's still 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 items of obscuring terrain, and a number of these lovely little line of sight blocking, not line of sight blocking, sorry, scatter terrain pieces, which I've put up top there. You can't see it, but you know, we've got things like that. We've got pieces like this. Okay, these two could even. Please don't have broken. Please don't have broken. They didn't break. Haha. Good Mechanicum build. So these pieces here are going to provide me with definitely enough to do a combat patrol. I might even argue that actually just these two buildings by themselves in the middle of the battlefield, with a few pieces of scatter spread around the outside, that's going to be enough for a combat patrol, absolutely guaranteed. And it'd be a really interesting structure to play around just because of how it's going to make people use movement differently. And a ranged unit sat on top of the bridge could actually provide a pretty significant danger in a combat patrol scale game. I don't think I personally advocate for playing combat patrol. I think it's much, much too swingy, and he who goes first wins. Also, he who gets the first turn of shooting really wins. But I think I'm really happy with how this is building out. The challenge for me now is going to work out how to paint it. I know I'm going to have to use a sort of a forest green colour for the buildings because it's a Sector Mechanicus. I want it to tie in with my fiancée Georgie's Adeptus Mechanicus, and so we're going to have to use a sort of a forest green colour when painting it. That might not be too bad though, because our game board is presently matching the sort of the theme of my Dark Angels bases, and obviously if I'm going for a sort of forest green colour, then perhaps doing a sort of a faded sort of calcium-like wall plaster might then just mean that I can have some green and beige buildings, which will blend in with the table. It'll look really good with the mud colours and the grass that we've got on the table, and it'll also look really good whenever I deploy my Dark Angels there. So if we're doing Dark Angels versus Mechanicus, it could be a really cool sort of like a Civil War thing. And let's be honest, if anyone's going to start fighting Mechanicus over things they shouldn't know, it's going to be the Dark Angels. So there's some really, really good possibilities here with this terrain. I'm pleasantly surprised. I picked these up thinking I've got a bit of disposable income. Now's the time to waste it on some Games Workshop products, and I don't need any new armies. But let's just take that off. There we go. Just noticing little bits that I need to clean up. There we go. Probably shouldn't clean it up while I'm on camera, but there we have it. I'm quite happy with how these have gone together. I was surprised by how modular they are. I didn't really appreciate the fact that I could take this same stuff here and mix it with elements of the Battle Sanctum. Okay, I thought Battle Sanctum, that's faction terrain. That's not going to be useful for anything. Sisters of One in the terms of what their faction terrain does for them. I think it's really, really cool, that Battle Sanctum. And I think one of the things that is going to disappoint me with this, perhaps, is the level that Warhammer 40,000 doesn't provide the ability to really use big pieces of terrain that are multi-story in any sufficient way. You've got 5 turns. It's going to be 1 turn to get up to the next floor. It's going to be a 2nd turn to walk halfway across the bridge, and a 3rd turn to get into the next building, and a 5th turn to get to the top of that building. Sorry, a 4th turn to get to the top of that building. You don't have the availability for that, and so the only people who are going to have the speed to do this are guys with jump packs. And jump packs don't need to... I don't know. There's something about being an infantry soldier, storming up a building on foot, shooting through the rooms, running over across a bridge, invading another territory, that is really satisfying for me as a sort of like an idea of what I want to have happen in the game. And I don't feel like 40k lends that. I have to have that jump pack so that I can then fly up to the level. But I don't want to fly up to the level. I want to run up to the level. As we've now just hit the 1 hour mark, I think I am going to sign off here. Thank you, Legionnaires, for watching, and I hope you enjoy this video, and I hope you enjoy what is hopefully to come.